So my name is Cobus Potgieter, I'm from South Africa. I post videos on YouTube. I started in 2006, I believe, it was my first video. I started posting, I'd say produced, slightly, hopefully high quality content in 2007. And the reason why I play drums, and I play drums along to my favorite songs. And the reason why I originally filmed myself is I just wanted to see what I look like on camera in terms of technique. I just wanted to see what I physically look like when I play the drums. So I produced these videos and I had them, and I heard about this new website at that stage, very new, called YouTube. And I uploaded a few videos and just to get some feedback, because I'd never had lessons before up until that point. And so I really wanted people to tell me, this is what you're doing right, this is what you're doing wrong. Just get some feedback from people, hopefully the world over. And that's exactly what happened. And it slowly started growing. Like I said, I've been doing this for a really long time. And slowly started growing, and it eventually got big enough that I got some sponsorships and some endorsements. And yeah, now it's something that I'm trying to turn into a full-time career. In terms of viewership, to be honest, Africa and South Africa is very low on the list. I'd say, well, the top three is the States, America, Canada, and then the UK. But yeah, South Africa is very low on the list, and I think it's primarily because of data costs. If I think about how cheap or how affordable internet access is in the States, which is where I work now, and I compare it to South Africa, it's a very different ballgame. And I think that's definitely holding people back a little bit. That's changing now, which is great. But in terms of specific places in Africa where most of the viewership comes from, I don't know actually. I guess that South Africa is at the top of that list. I hope so. I definitely have had some emails and interactions and comments and tweets from people in Kenya and specifically Nairobi for some reason, and Nigeria is also another big one that comes to mind. But Africa is sadly not that well represented online, specifically in terms of YouTube, I think, just because of data usage. But that's changing, which is great. So in terms of equipment and that kind of stuff, when I started out, I just used whatever I could get my hands on. I remember the first videos I produced with one camera angle, the church's camera. I played drums at this church, and I was recording drums, and it was late at night when I finished. And I'd always wanted to do these videos, and there was nobody to tell me no. So I just borrowed the church's camera. I think it was a Sony, I can't remember. SD camera, definitely not HD. SD camera, DV tapes, the whole deal. And yeah, I just set it up as framed like a nice overhead angle, because it's always the angle that I had in mind when I thought about doing my first videos. Set it up, and I just played through, I think it was 11 of my favorite songs at the time, just jammed through them one take. Edited with Sony Vegas, which is what I used since I started doing any kind of video production. It's what I use today. I started with version 4.0, I believe, and I'm using Vegas Pro 12 now. I've been around for a while. In terms of audio mixing, I used Adobe Audition back then. I did use it for a few years after that as well. Then I generally, I switched to Cubase after a while. So that's what I've been using up until now. The audio was, like I said, borrowed equipment. I used what I could get my hands on, and I feel like that's a really important thing that I just want to tell people, is that you can't use that as an excuse anymore. That you don't have access to equipment, because I feel like there are so many places you can go, so many people you can speak to, where you can borrow equipment. You don't even have to spend a cent. I remember the church where I plugged into, I borrowed their equipment. I borrowed their camera, borrowed the mics. I didn't own any of this, and I feel like if you do the best of what you have, especially these days where we've got camera phones that are able to record in HD and with amazing audio quality, I feel like you could do a lot with what you have. And so I think that's the basic focus, is just doing what you can with what you have, especially in terms of audio and video equipment. I think it would be quite tricky to give like a top 5 list of things you need to produce high quality video. I think even more so than the 5 things you need, there's like a very foundational underlying principle and motivation that you need, which is, I want to produce high quality content, and so I'm going to do what I can to get to that, regardless of what I have access to. And every single content creator that I've ever spoken to has that same drive to produce high quality content, regardless of what you have access to. So some people, they use excuses and they say, well, I don't have access to a lot of tech. And other guys say, well, I've got access to a camera phone and a bed lamp and a PC. so what can I do? And they make that work for them. So it's, I'd say, above everything else, it's that drive to produce high quality content regardless of what you have access to, regardless of what you don't have access to. Beyond that, I'd say do your research. That's the biggest thing for me. Like, you can do a lot with a little. Like I said, bed lamps. I use bed lamps and an overhead projector as my primary light sources for the first like 3 or 4 years that I produced videos, and nobody noticed because nobody cares about what's on the outside of the frame. They just care what's on the inside of the frame. Like, you don't know what kind of camera we're using, you don't know what kind of lights we're using, you just see what's on the inside of the frame. And so you have to keep that in mind. It doesn't matter what's behind the camera, if it's a bed lamp or an overhead projector. So it matters on what's inside the frame. So I'd say do your research. So, think about in terms of composition, lighting, some really basic lighting techniques. If you're going to record something like a drum set, or even somebody speaking, do some research and see in terms of mic placement, mixing, that kind of stuff. But literally all the information is on the internet. It's all, like, for me, it all comes down to that very simple point of I want to produce high quality content. I'm going to do whatever is necessary to get there. And with very little money invested, you can produce high quality content these days. Like I said, camera phones have amazing quality. I wish I had like 1080p capability on my phone when I started making videos. That would have been amazing. Yeah, my phone now has a better camera than the camera I used when I did my first video. So I'd say that's a big thing. It's just like winging it and doing makeshift stuff, seeing what you can do to just get the picture to look better, regardless of what you're actually using, whether it's a bed lamp or an overhead projector. And you can get some really affordable gear as well if you want to take it a step further in terms of miking and video recording and lighting and stuff. Like, the prices of tech has just gone down in terms of audio and video production, which has been great for guys like us who don't have a lot of money. So it makes a big difference. But like I said, there's no amount of information that I can give you that's not on the web. It's all on the web. You just have to have that drive to produce high quality content and do your research. The equipment that I'm using at the moment is incredible, and I get to say that because it's mostly because of sponsorships and endorsements. So I'm ridiculously thankful for the gear that I have. You have that best case scenario when you start producing videos, and you can't afford it in the beginning, but as time progresses, I feel like if you make good use of the opportunities that you're given, then great things happen. And so I'm very excited about the equipment that I'm able to use. So the equipment that I'm using in terms of audio recording is PreSonus AudioBox 1818 DSL main interface. It's an amazing interface. It's a USB 2 interface, and then I supplement that with a AudioBox Digimax D8 set of preamps. It's another 8 preamps that I use, because I usually use between 12 and 15 channels when I track my drums. And I love the AudioBox 1818 DSL especially. It's an amazing interface. It's so stable because it's USB 2. I've used FireWire interfaces in the past, and they kind of touch and go sometimes, especially with PCs. I'm a PC guy, so I can totally vouch for the stability and how the ease of use of the AudioBox 1818 DSL from PreSonus. It's amazing. It's really affordable too, so I feel like I'm giving really good advice because it's a very affordable interface. In terms of mics, I use Samsung mics. I use the Samsung 8 kit, and then I supplement with a few other mics from Samsung, but it's usually the 8 kit mostly that I use on the kit itself, and then Samsung XLR cables and Samsung mic stands. In terms of cameras, all GoPro. I recently made that switch, well, actually with my latest set of videos, I made the switch to GoPro, and it's been amazing. It's like GoPros are pretty much tailor-made for what I do, which is high intensity videos, which is great. And so like GoPros are amazing at capturing the motion of drumming, especially because they're kind of tailor-made for extreme sports where there's a lot of motion, and I feel like with very little tampering you can get amazing picture quality using GoPro. So very thankful for a sponsorship from them, and I used 9 GoPro 3 Pluses on the latest series. Got a ton of coverage with the 9 angles, which is awesome. And then just normal halogen lights, and that's another really cool thing because halogen has kind of the same color temperature as daylight. It works really well with the GoPros because GoPros are obviously optimized for extreme sports, outdoors extreme sports. So the halogen lights with the GoPros work amazingly well to get very clear images very quickly with very little tampering. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The lights, halogen lights, GoPro cameras, PreSonus interface, Samsung mics. Yeah, love it. Makes a really big difference. And like I said, I edit with Sony Vegas, and I do all my mixing and recording and mastering with Cubase.